Hi, my name is Caleb Spry, and I will be doing a demo on line variation and then the different types of line that we have that you can use to suggest three-dimensional shapes, and then also different shadows and values, so you can have an entire drawing just 100% in line, and that will be helpful in Design 131, and not only that, but way into the future of your art career. Now I'll switch over to my paper and we will get started. So now that I have my workspace set up, I will be talking about the materials I will be using for this demo. Here I have a range of different graphite pencils. If you don't have a range of graphite pencils, you can also just use an HB pencil. You can get a various range of lines with that. And I will also be using a Pro Quill pen with Higgins Black India ink. This is just to show how sensitivity with this tool can also affect line weight and pressure, and it also just will show up really well on camera so that you can see that. As for the range of graphite pencils, if a pencil has a letter on there that is a B, it is a softer pencil. So this is a really dark soft pencil, and the graphite will produce a very dark line. And if it's a pencil that has a H on it, it is a harder graphite pencil, and it will produce a thinner line. And you can use those to get different results when you are drawing throughout your process work. So now I'm going to start out with a really dark 6B pencil. And with the 6B pencil, I can go in here and I can actually create a very, very dark line, as you can see. Or with that same pencil, you can also make a very, very thin line. So just the pressure that you add on the pencil can change the line weight, and then it can also change what it would look like if you wanted to make something look three-dimensional or in space just with line, and I will explain that here in a bit. But what I'll do is, one thing you can do to practice your line variation is you can create a box like this. And then the main goal of this box is that every line you draw in this box is the same width apart, and then it also is the same line weight. So you can create boxes like this in your sketchbook and then practice your line weight and variation so that you can create the same line when it comes down to the final product and the project. And then you don't have to worry about making as much of a mistake because you've had practice. You might still make a mistake, but this may stop you from making the mistake as much as you would have before. I'm doing this for my current project with the Pro Quill pen, and I'll show that here in a minute, but you can do this over and over and over, and you can also just get a very good sense for your medium. So with the graphite, and you can use a softer pencil if you want to do the softer lines, or you could try to get all of those lines with the same dark pencil, and that would give you very, very good control over your medium and the pencil as well. So now I will put the pencil to the side and we will do the Pro Quill pen. And with the Pro Quill pen, you have your ink here that you have to load into the pen. And in this pen uses capillary action, and there's a little hole up here. And when you press down on the paper, it pulls the ink into that little well. And then the nib allows a certain amount of ink out as you press down with different amounts of pressure. And so just so I don't spill this ink, I'm going to set this out of the way, out of my arm's reach. And then I will take this pen down here, and I will slowly start to feel to see if the ink is coming out. And you can see little dots right there, so that means we're good to go. And then I will start out with a very thin line, and then we'll go to a very dark line. And then we'll do a little wavy line that goes into a darker line. So you can achieve all different types of lines with this, not only with the Pro Quill pen, but with the graphite. And with this, you can also do the box, or if you have the graphite box drawn, you can take your Pro Quill pen, or even just a like a pen, like a micron pen if you have those, or also if you have a ballpoint pen, you can trace over these and try to replicate those lines. So I will go over here and I will slowly start to replicate those lines with increasing pressure or no pressure at all, depending on how my lines look. And you can just do this over and over, and it'll build up that muscle memory that you need so that you have excellent control over your pen, pencil, or whatever medium you decide to use. And now in a second, I will change up my workspace and we will talk about where you can use these varying lines and the different names for those. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I am going to draw a few very simple shapes to show for this demonstration, and as you learn more and you improve your skills, you can obviously go to much more complicated objects, such as objects in a still life or even organic forms. So what I'll do is I am going to go and I am going to create a circle here. I'll loosely face that in, and then I'll also create a square or a rectangle. And then we will also do a cone. And so with these, you have a little bit of three-dimensionality, but you can do different things with these shapes to make them look more three-dimensional. Okay, so one of the things you can do is you can use contour line, which is the line that you create with the outer edge of the object to describe the shape. So if you wanted to, we can say that the light is coming from this direction. So everything over here would be in the highlight area, and then these areas over here would be in the shadow area. So you would start out with a very thin line over here, and then you would progress into a darker line, and this area would be in shadow. So we would darken those lines right there. And then we would also darken these lines right here. And then this would still be in the light. And this is still further away from us. And so lines that are farther away from you will also be thinner. But for this example, I'm just talking about the darkness of the line. So we'll talk about that in a minute. But then if you come down to this one, the same thing here. We'll say the light's coming from this direction. So we'd have a lighter line over here, and we progress that into a darker line. And then this side would also be in shadow. And then in this one, I want to talk about cross contour line. So one of the things you can do to describe the shape and the three-dimensionality of an object is to create cross contour lines. So what you do is that you make lines across this to describe the surface of the form. And you can slowly start to make those. And you can also use varying weight and pressure in these. And at the end of this demo, I will show an example of a cross contour drawing that I did, and then some other examples. So, and you go and you make these contour lines across the form to describe that it is a round shape. And then you can kind of see that there is a three-dimensionality of the shape starting to be formed. And then you can also go back in and create lines like this up and down to show that there is a slope. But then if your object isn't 100% smooth, or it's not flat, or it doesn't have a smooth surface, you can also use cross contour lines to describe things like this. And you can show something that is concave, that goes back into space, or you could show something that is convex and comes out like this. And then once you use those lines to describe those, you can take lines back across to do that. But you can also use line weight and pressure to describe the cross contour lines of an object. And I'll also do it on this rough and rudimentary sphere over here. So I will take my pencil and we will start making the lines like this. Okay, so then you have the curvature of the sphere this direction and then also this direction. Obviously, these shapes are very rough for the demo purposes, but you could actually turn these into great portfolio pieces possibly for the future if you actually take your time, sit down, and learn to build those. And so now I will talk about how you can use line to push something backwards in space or push it forwards. So I will do a tube like this, and we will do two parallel lines. And then we'll have the tube be circular, and then on this end it'll be this way. But so to push something back in space, what you want to do is all the lines closer to you will be darker. So everything in the front here will be dark, and then once you go into the side of this tube, you'll start out dark, and then you'll start to thinly push off, and then we'll come in thin, and then we'll push really hard, so that you get a darker front and then a thin back side here. And then we did an assignment for my BPMI class to where we had to do something called totally tubular. And so everything in the front here was darkened and everything in the back was lighter, so that we could create a sense that it's going back in space. And then what we do for this is we would slowly start to do the cross contour of these tubes so that we had the idea of the cylindrical form. And then what you actually would want to do, though, instead of just doing those lines, is to draw in every single ellipse here. Ellipses are hard, but if you take the time to do it, then it will actually look three-dimensional and look correct. So then you would do those lines, and you could go back in and erase out the highlight if the light was coming from this side. But every line in the front here would be darker, and then slowly transition to lighter. And that's how we are describing three-dimensionality and the form of our bugs for our current project that I'm working on. So that is cross contour, and then the contour of the box is just the line, the outside shape, the lines that you use to describe that. And then you can also use lines to describe the three-dimensionality of the object, and then if it is closer to you in space or further back in. So this is the process work that I did for my contour line drawing. I did some rough sketches and process work, and then I moved into the contour line drawing. And then the next picture is the actual cross contour, to where you can see I used the lines to describe three-dimensional objects and shapes. Thank you for watching this demo today and joining me. I would like to thank you for your attention, and I would also like to wish you luck in Design 131 and beyond. And if you have any questions, you can always ask your studio instructor, or if you happen to see me around the design building, you can always feel free to stop by and ask me. And I hope you have a wonderful day.